please mark all members present with the exception of Amanda Peters, okay? You have before you the minutes of the last meeting. The three members that were present at that meeting. A motion's in order for those minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Motion been made and second. You three, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Mr. Stewart, I think it is, if I'm correct in saying you have one request for the evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you please state that request, please?
Yes, sir. We have requests from John Harkrader with Schreiber Builders, who is an agent for the property owners at 1452 Shire Peak Way, and they are requesting a dimensional variance from the requirements of the minimum required yard setback regulations. They're wishing to construct a residence closer to the front property line than permitted. The site is located on Shire Peak Way off of Shearborn Drive in the Shire Peak subdivision and is currently vacant. The properties to the south and west have detached single-family residences, and the property to the north has a house under construction. The properties to the northwest are vacant. The subject property and the surrounding properties are within the residential 1C zone, which allows single-family residential dwellings detached and qualified manufactured homes. Per Direction 2030, which is the area-wide comprehensive plan update, which was adopted by the Kenton County Planning Commission on September 4th, 2014, the recommended land use plan identifies the reference site as well as all the surrounding properties for residential uses with a density of 4.1 to 7 dwelling units per net acre. Direction 2030 also identifies the subject property and the surrounding properties to be within a development-sensitive area. This means that the properties may have moderate or steep slopes, sensitive geology, or a combination of both. The applicants are proposing to construct their residence 25 feet from the front property line. Section 10.3E3 of the Erlanger zoning ordinance requires a minimum front yard setback of 35 feet. The applicants are requesting a front yard setback variance of 10 feet. The side yard setbacks exceed the minimum requirements for this zone.
Okay, so basically what we have is a request for a variance of 10 feet to be from 35 feet to 25 feet. Okay, those of you that are going to speak for or against, please stand and raise your right hand. Please stand, please. Y'all swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, thank you. All right. The people making the request, please step to the podium and state your reason for your request.
Greg Schreiber with Tom Schreiber Construction. We are proposing a better transition between a current house that is getting started under construction to the other side of our lot line is an existing house. So we're not asking for, we're asking for 10. We would be happy with 8 if that, I'm trying to get between what's going to be new construction started already to what's existing. I'm trying to get a transition in the middle there. So that's what felt to try to get a variance closer to the street would help for the cul-de-sac. The other reason is not to have to disturb as much of the hillside slope as possible. That's also another reason for trying to pull it forward a little. So does that help?
Okay, so in other words, the purpose of the variance is to avoid cutting into the hillside, moving it forward the 10 feet, and tying in with the existing houses in line with the neighborhood, is that correct?
Correct. Trying to be in the middle there of what's existing with what's currently under construction.
And, let's see, I saw it, but is that the first house in the circle? On the
Yes,
right?
we would be the first cul-de-sac lot. There's one under construction, there's an existing house at the back, and then the other lots are vacant.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, any of you gentlemen have any questions for Mr. Schreiber?
No. Is This setback, is that going to allow that, since you're coming off of that circle, is that going to allow that to align with the existing house in a better manner, or is that the?
I
one of the-
feel it is. It's
Okay.
instead of the one that's after us under new construction is gonna be, you know, up a little close,
Okay.
so. Trying to meet in the middle of the two houses.
Anybody else have any questions for him? All right, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, next person that wishes to speak, Mike and Jan Jackson. State your name, please.
My name is Ted Sandman. I live at 1444 Shire Peak Way. I'm the only house on the cul-de-sac that's there. We've been there 13 years. We have an issue with the construction going on to our immediate right of us. These folks are building to the vacant lot between that new construction and my other neighbors. I contacted Mark Stewart after I'd come home from a road trip and found that lot already staked out. I had some concerns and I called him and he said there was already a hearing for that and that time has passed, so all I could do was note an objection to it, but that the variance that they had requested had passed. I'm not very happy with it. That particular lot is the largest lot on the street and has plenty of room to be built according to the zoning laws that exist. The couple is older and wants a ranch with no steps, doesn't really want to utilize their basement. I think that was a poor decision to uphold or grant their variance. The other reason I have issues with it, I honestly don't remember ever receiving the letter. So the way the city handles this, I have some objections with. The default to this situation ought to be that the variance would not be approved unless all the people that were contacted approve it. It's similar to way back when credit cards used to send you a MasterCard would send you a credit card and say, I opened an account for you unless you notify us in 30 days that you don't want it. And it's not the right way to handle that. Had I known about it, I would have been at the meeting and objected to the variance. These folks are looking to move the house forward. I think it's going to create issues with the house already under construction. It's going to get very tight between the house under construction and my neighbors. Aesthetically, I don't think it's going to look very good. And already, I think it's going to diminish our property values. So I would vote that the city not grant the variance. I can also tell you in my case, we used a 9-foot foundation. My developer or contractor only went down 6 feet. We ran into nothing but shale. We had also had in our building loan extra money for pilings should we have needed that, and we never had to utilize that money. So I think that in this case, if they move the lot or the house further than what the zoning is in effect now, it's going to look very awkward. The street, the cul-de-sac's going to look crowded. I think it's going to diminish our property values. The zoning was there or put in place many years ago, and it ought to be upheld.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes, sir.
was the letter sent to his address?
Yes, sir.
Not going back and revisiting?
Yes,
But-
sir.
Okay, a letter was sent. Okay.
And to that point, sir, if the city's gonna contact people.
All right, let me address your issue, okay? We're with the board and the Board of Adjustments, and we deal with variances and conditional usage. You're aware of that, that's why you're here. However, we're doing it according to what the city guidelines are. Your issue is not here. Your issue, if you have an issue, the way variances are granted, and that is with the way that the city adopts those for them to be in use. I've never been in a committee where it had to be 100% or it didn't go, unless you're on trial or something, or murder, in some cases. But you understand what I'm saying? So I appreciate what you're saying. We can't deal with your issue. Your issue is passed, and we're here to deal with the issue and speak only to the issue of today that's addressed with us. We did the same time at that time with that other one, and that's all I can tell you. I appreciate the fact that you're here and I appreciate your concerns, okay?
I understand what you're saying, sir, but concerning this issue, I'm the next house that's standing from there.
All right?
I
okay.
don't,
All right, so you're speaking also relative to that house,
Yes.
and we appreciate that. That's your, that's your public right, okay? Anybody have any questions for him?
and also, if it's possible going forward concerning the other empty lots in the cul-de-sac, that the city, in this case, they posted the notice or the letter on their lot so the public could see it. I think the city ought to notify other citizens by certified mail to make sure that those citizens received the notice. I did receive the letter concerning their request to change the variance. So it seems like it's a little lackluster here on how we communicate. It wouldn't also, I think, be very far-fetched to have the city contact those folks by email. I think in the city database, you pretty much have everybody's name, address, phone numbers at least. I don't see how it would be very difficult to add an email address to that.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything?
Yeah, on that, we're required, we have legal bounds that the way we have to advertise, the way we have to notify people. We're required by that. They're set up for us. We have no decision on that, or does the city. It's all set up prior to it. Most everything comes out of the planning and zoning. We follow procedures as laid out for us. So,
You have anything, Mr. Arnold?
I do not.
Okay. Mr. Molly?
I do not have anything.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next person that wishes to speak for or against, please.
My name's Mike Jackson, live at 1456 Shire Peak, which would be next door to where this new construction's being proposed. I, too, agree with my neighbor, Ted Sandman, that the variance be denied due to, until the house that is under construction right now, with the variance change that was done, every other single house back there has all followed. Those last 15 lots on the end of Shire Peak are all private build. We have nothing to do with Dries. The developer had Dries do all of the initial development of it, and those lots were, per the covenant that was given for the private builds, all have to be side entry garages. Mr. Keeley, who owned all the land, had Dries actually do the development and lay it out per Dries building codes and their type of home builds that they do, not side entry. Per the covenant with the private builds on the end of Shire Peak, there's no variance in that. There's no changes unless it's done by Keeley, who gives that approval. The house that we are in now is our third house plan that we were into. The first one, we needed 6 feet of easement, and that was denied. The second house, we wanted the 3-car garage, but the only way it would fit on that lot was front entry. Went to Mr. Keeley, he denied it. Finally, we got our third house plan that we were into, so that's 3 house plans that we're in before a shovel was even stuck in the ground, and there was no giveaway. There was nothing, no give or take, the developer. So we finally came up with it. We lost our 3rd-car garage, but we're happy with the way the house is. The problem is, we're following, our building was all done per the covenant that was provided to us with the builder, from the developer. And with the way that the new construction's going on with the house that's being built right now, it has thrown the whole front view of the way that a normal cul-de-sac, houses flow, the way that that variance has been changed has thrown that off. And it would be the same thing with this house. We actually looked at that lot first before we chose our lot. And our builder flat said, I'd stay away from it with the, once we finally had an approved house plan, without, you would probably have to do some kind of retaining wall or piering that would need to take place. He said, why don't you move 1 lot over? That's what we did to alleviate that. But we followed all the covenant rules and kept that 35 setback done. So has every other house back there, except this one that's being built now with the variance change that was done next to the Sandmans.
And your house in respect to where this house is being built?
It'll be right next door to it.
One you live in now?
Correct.
Same hills behind that one's behind you? Same hillside behind that is behind you?
Correct. And we worked it a way that we needed to do.
So if you're looking at the house, you're on the right?
If I'm looking at the house, we would be on the right of where the new,
All right.
the new house, we would be on the right-hand side.
1456.
Correct. And by throwing that variance out, that's going to change our whole line of the view of the street
How long
with the
have you
flow
been
of
in
the
your house?
cul-de-sacs. Coming up on 9 years. And we were the last ones to build back there before this new construction next to the Sandman's house.
So you mentioned Mr., was it Keeley?
David Keeley is
Where is he now?
you tell me.
Oh, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't even know the man. Where is he?
Last we know, Dry Ridge, maybe? Yeah.
Okay, so what does he have to do with the covenants now? I mean, the covenants don't pertain to us, but, I mean,
No, but it states that the 35-foot street setback.
sure, but
in
where is
there.
he now? Like, I guess if he was involved in your build,
Correct,
and he was telling you what you couldn't and couldn't build,
correct.
why is he not involved now?
I don't know. I would assume because he owns lots that he received a notification and he just flat out didn't show up. Mr. Keeley's the same gentleman who we've sent notification to Mark, as well as Officer Jewett and who's his help now? The code enforcement officers. And we're the ones that are constantly in the reminders why, the property maintenance has to be taken care of, even though building's not being done. And it's never happening. In fact, Mr. Schreiber, I think, is the only one who's kept up for the first year, and in 9 years, that lots have been mowed on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I know this street. We have friends that live on this street, so I go down there all the time. I was just down there this weekend. I think you were working in your backyard on something.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a reason that these lots haven't sold. I mean,
I think, yeah.
the last person,
We know.
1448 that came in a month or two ago, it's the same issue. I mean, the builder's just like, the way it slopes off, the soil underneath, the soil testing, everything. I mean, something has to give, unfortunately, because those are the last lots. If those were prime lots, you would already had neighbors. You would have had a neighbor 13 years ago, you would have had one 9 years ago.
Yep.
So, but the covenants, unfortunately, I don't think we have to, the covenants don't affect us. We're just, we have to go by what's put in front of us, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. I know it's just a,
So I'm
it's a strange
assuming-
situation with these lots. I mean, 1444, it's set back because it's so narrow in the front. You have your driveway and then your house is kind of canted a little bit to get that house on there with the side entry garage.
Our lot is almost an acre,
Yeah,
and that is
All of them are.
space on that lot is the driveway, and that's where the house is sitting.
right.
The house that will go up to the left of me will practically be right in front of me.
You'll be looking into the side of 1439 when it goes, right. I mean, that, unfortunately, like I said, that is.
But I bought the house knowing that that's going to happen, with the house sitting at the setback.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to build a berm.
Sure.
Break up the ventilation, or buy half of that lot, should somebody on the other side of that want to buy half of it and spread the spacing of the home so it would look correct.
Sure.
That brings us to look at the side of their house also. When we walk out in front of ours, we're gonna have 8 feet of their house in front of ours.
Minimum. And with us being that last house before it turns into the cul-de-sac is where that's going to throw that out and ruin the flow.
You have a front porch on yours?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, when 1439 goes up, we'll be here again, probably. Because his pinches a little bit as well. His will sit back farther, but you'll be looking right in his front door. Just because of the way that they're laid out, and that's not something that we have any effect over how these things are laid out.
It's what happens when you live in a cul-de-sac.
Correct.
That's a victim of a cul-de-sac.
That's all the question I had. You kept mentioning Mr. Keeley. I didn't know who he was or where he's, how he's
Yeah, he's the
involved.
gentleman who owned all that property
Okay.
As-
prior to selling it to Dries.
He has sold it out now, so that,
Well, he did, except the last 15 lots at the end of Shire Peak, and the last 5 or 6 lots on,
One behind you, street behind you.
not right behind us, Rouse's house.
Yeah,
Twin Ridge.
Twin Ridge,
yeah.
where Rouse's house is. And he was actually gonna build back there until the city stopped him from putting horse stables. That was his initial, that's what he was initially gonna do, was put horse stables back there. And that's why he's not there now.
Okay, any other question? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else that hasn't spoken that wishes to speak? Okay. then. Mr. Schreiber? My understanding was in your opening statement, correct? That you said that we possibly could get by with 8 feet, is that correct?
Yes, I could. Yes, that's what I should have submitted, 8 foot, because that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Had it been 10 feet, he would have been in compliance and we wouldn't be here. So far, tonight, we're within 8 feet for any part thereof as far as a recommendation or on or denial. So, any discussion among you all, anybody?
Seems like most of the objections deal from what is termed the covenant, which really and honestly has nothing to do with the city limits and the possibility of asking for a variance, which is allowed. The covenant, I guess, didn't allow for whatever. I didn't know that the person who owned the property could set the standards.
Looking at this, I don't think there's any way that if you had, everything was set back 35 feet, I don't think there's any way with the odd-shaped lots that you could make anything flow around those lots that would look uniform
Yeah, in a straight line.
in a straight
That's what
line.
you're talking about.
The house that's already built in there is set at an angle that's offset to everything else. There's no way that it, is built on that lot, and that's what they had to do, but it's in no way uniform with the others.
Could say one more thing, sir. I feel this is helping the value of that subdivision. I'm a customer over there. They have amenities in this house that will not bring, it's a 2,500 square foot house. This is not a small house, and there's real windows. I know there's multiple houses in that subdivision, and I could go on other amenities. This is a nice custom built house that we're trying to put in the area.
Okay. My thought is that, and I agree with the gentleman, with all of us, that cul-de-sacs are tough to deal with because as soon as you go into them, you're looking straight at somebody and looking across right at somebody. And it just happened that this lot is narrow enough to where the garage is going in on the right-hand side. In other words, the driveway and going in, and that's offset. And it's going straight back. And so therefore, that's where the, asking for the variance of the 25 feet. A motion's in order to either, like I said, reject it, accept it, or any portion thereof.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. I want to make a motion to grant the application of Mr. John Harkrader to construct a residence at a minimum of 25 feet. Now we're changing that to 28 feet. Isn't that correct?
That would be back 3 additional feet.
Yeah,
You want 27.
27 feet, okay. At 27 feet from the front property line, the granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, do not alter the essential character of general vicinity, will not cause a hazard and a nuisance to the public, will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. This motion shall be pursuant to the factual determinations of the evidence provided, including without a limitation to the staff report, which is hereby determined to be accurate. And this is Mr. John Harkrader that we're granting this in for Mr. Schreiber Construction, correct? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Motion is to grant a variance of a setback of 27 feet instead of 25 feet.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
All right, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No other discussion, then a roll call vote's in order. Mr. Stewart?
Mr. Armbruster,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Molly,
Yes.
Mr. Newsom.
Yes. Motion passes. A variance of 27 feet is allowed. In other words, a variance of only 8 feet is allowed from what would have normally stood. Okay? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, we have anything else on the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
All right. Anything coming up for next month that you're aware of?
We do have a case in ready to go for October, yes.
Sir,
We have at least one case ready to go for October.
one case ready to go for October, okay?
I have a question. Some time ago, we granted permission for a lot on Cali for 3 garages. What's the status of that? It seems like that's been over a year ago when we granted that.
They have not applied for any permits, and they have not turned a shovel of dirt or anything, so
How long does that go on?
that's a variance, it's indefinite. It goes with the property, not with the property owner.
Okay?
If it was a
Okay.
conditional use, then there would be a time limit, but
All right. A motion adjourns in order?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Welcome to the neighborhood, this poor folks.
Where is it at? 8 feet.